this government is just as concerned about protecting Irish householders for what is a very difficult time. We all absolutely accept that those households in either gas or their electricity bills are facing huge increases that have a huge impact on every family across the country, and we are determined to protect them and to help our country through a difficult time. It bears repeating that the consequence or the causes of this do lie in international factors, as well as our dependence on fossil fuels, meaning that it hits particularly hard here in Ireland because we use so much gas in generating electricity and also heating our homes, powering our industry. And it's that reliance on fossil fuels is what is the underlying cause, as well as the characteristics of the Irish market. But first and foremost, the prices in the last 2 years, and it has been 2 years, shot up because of the war in Ukraine, where Russia used the supply of gas as a weapon of war, and that had knock-on consequences for obviously the people of Ukraine, but also the 450 million citizens across Europe and the wider rest of the world who've all seen a dramatic increase in prices because of those gas prices in the first instance going up to something like 13 times their historic average, and are still, while they've reduced from that high, still some 2.5 to 3 times their historic averages. That is the cause of the problem. That is the underlying issue that we have to tackle, and I want to set out today some of the measures in which we will do that, but also in which we will protect, or we have protected our people, which we will continue to do so. And I believe the measures that we developed in direct cash payments and targeted social welfare payments, as well as interventions like the introduction of a windfall tax, where we will introduce it at a rate far higher than any other European government, and introduce the tax on the non-gas producing electricity supply companies at a rate which is far below, in other words, the profits going to the relevant companies will be far less than what they would be in other jurisdictions, contrary to what we have just heard. But firstly, as I said, if I can set out some of the details of what's been happening and what we as a government and also the regulator have been doing to try and protect Irish householders in this time. The price increases were not due, ever, to government or regulatory decisions. The immediate factor, as I said, was that spike, and it happened as early as the first half of the midterm in 2020 is when we started to see the prices increasing. Data supplied by the Commission for Regulation of Utilities indicates that the average electricity and gas household bills have increased to a combined total of over €4,000 a year. At its peak, as I said, in August last year, wholesale gas prices on the UK spot market were trading at over 600 pence per therm, which is a 13 times multiple of the pre-pandemic level of 50 pence a therm. Due to high gas storage levels, warmer than normal wintering conditions and policy efforts to reduce natural demand across Europe, wholesale gas prices have fallen dramatically and are currently below the peak values of last year. However, wholesale gas prices are still trading at some 120 pence per therm, which, as I said, was 2.5 times their historic pre-pandemic levels. Ireland is a price taker in international markets, and that means we face particular challenge in this crisis. Irish electricity and gas prices have historically been higher than other EU countries due to long-standing factors such as geographical isolation, our dispersed population, our dependency on fossil fuels, and our small market scale. In line with high wholesale prices, household electricity and gas prices rose steeply in the final quarter of last year and have remained elevated since. The recent reduction in wholesale gas prices in Europe is welcome. However, prices remain significantly higher than pre-crisis levels, with wholesale energy costs accounting for a significant percentage of total supplier costs. A sustained period of falling wholesale gas prices will lead to retail market price reductions. However, hedging by suppliers that results in a significant proportion of energy purchased over several months in advance have impacted or may impact the ability of suppliers to reduce prices, notwithstanding the decline in the wholesale cost of gas. I want to, if I can, and that's something that, yes, we will look and talk to every company, looking to make sure they advance the cuts as quickly as can be possible. But it is not something that you can completely ignore or click your fingers and ignore the reality in a market where companies do typically hedge some 12 to 18 months in advance. And that is why it will take time, and this is in other countries, not just in Ireland, just across Europe, for those retail prices to come down. But we, like everyone else in this House, will look forward and promote and try and deliver and achieve that in whatever way we can, but not by promising the impossible. I want to, if I can, set out the response of the government to that cost of living crisis, including measures we've taken to keep our citizens warm and well over the last 12 months. We introduced a €2.4 billion package of supports during last year and an additional package of one-off measures worth €2.5 billion in the budget 2023. In February this year, we announced a further €1.2 billion package to help families, business, pensioners, carers and people with disabilities to cope with the rising cost of living. Through the first and the second electricity cost emergency benefit schemes, over 2.1 million households will have automatically received €800 of income support through their electricity bill at a total cost of €1.59 billion between Q2 last year and the Q2 this year. Approximately 99% of all eligible customers will have the credit applied to their account. That worked. It had an immediate effect on each of the instances when it was applied in reducing the number of houses which were late with their payments, and it had the real benefit that it was low cost, effective, easy to deliver, and it worked, particularly when it worked in line with social welfare payments which protected those which are most vulnerable. And you do have to target what supports you have in this instance, in my mind, rather than a universal cap that would benefit every householder. We did and do and should and will make sure that we do target the ones who are most at risk. That's why the government has increased funding for support such as the fuel allowance. That's why we reduced VAT on gas and electricity bills, we reduced excise duty and allocated a total of €267 million, €202 million coming from carbon tax receipts to SEAI residential and community schemes, especially those targeting households at risk of energy poverty last year. As well as the fuel allowance scheme and the expansion to that, the Department of Social Welfare pays an electricity or gas allowance under the Household Benefit Scheme, and a further €203 million will have been spent in this scheme last year, and over 483,000 have been expected to benefit from it. Budget 2023 also increased the total allocation to the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland by 36% up to €480 million. It's the highest ever budget to support the achievement of our retrofitting targets. Last year, 4,438 upgrades were provided to homes at risk of energy poverty through our Warmer Homes and Warmth and Wellbeing schemes. In this year, a total of 235 will be spent by SAI on dedicated energy poverty schemes and local authority retrofits. The funding will target 6,000 free upgrades in the Warmer scheme and a further 2,400 B2 retrofits of local authority homes. That's real, it's an effective protection for the householders, and it reduces our dependency on fossil fuels in the long run, which make sure that they can make savings for the entire time that they're staying in the house. Furthermore, protecting jobs is protecting families through this energy crisis. We did that with the TBIS energy supports, and the level of relief was set to increase up to €10,000 per month. The threshold for qualification has been lowered from a 50% increase in electricity gas costs to 30%, and these changes will apply retrospectively from the start of last year. I'm conscious of the time and I don't have much left, but I will go back, as I conclude, as I said, to set the record straight. We very much supported the introduction of a windfall tax so that the supernormal profits of energy companies and electricity generators in this time would be taken to help support our customers. That legislation is written, is presented. The Joint Oireachtas Committee is doing its PLS. We will implement it, we will introduce it, and we will introduce it at the highest rates of any European country. That's the reality. 75% on the profits of fossil fuel companies for this year, and for those... Yeah, but in European legislation, Those were the years that was set out that we would apply it, and we follow European law, and we did it. But in the area where we did have room to manoeuvre, in the setting of the rate, if you look and check what every other European country did, come back to me and show me a country that set a higher tax rate. That speaks volumes compared to the words we heard earlier. Thank you.